Good afternoon. My name is James Smith Jr. and I'm a student at WG University. The reason we're here today is so I can show you how Windows Vista failed. There's proof to show that Microsoft Vista is destined to fail on a global scale from the beginning. Vista has been in the marketplace for less than 3 years and they are forcing the masses to upgrade to this operating system. Companies are slow to integrate software and drivers updates in order to be able to run on Vista. Microsoft has gone as far as to fix its problematic operating system as to basically not fix it at all. Now, saying that, there's a new operating system coming out called Windows 7. So right now I pretty much want to talk to you about the hardware requirements for Vista as opposed to Windows 7. Kind of like show you the user access control and how that works, and then basically explain to you how Windows 7 is actually the fix for Windows Vista. Now, the history of Windows Vista is kind of unique. Now, basically what they've done in Windows 98, in the beginning, it was a problematic operating system, so they decided to fix it by making another operating system, which was called Windows Millennium. Now, that didn't work very well either, so they decided to use Windows 2000 to make a home operating system, because Windows 2000 was a server. That's kind of obsolete now, but now Windows XP is based off of that. Now, you figured Microsoft would have come up with a much more better program after 5 or 6 years of Windows XP. That actually, when it came out, everybody was saying, oh, how wonderful this operating system is going to be. Now, the requirements for Windows Vista are kind of unique. It's a 1 gigahertz system. Let's write this down in case you would like to take notes. The requirements from Microsoft state minimum requirements are 1 gigahertz system, and then at least 1 gig of RAM, 1 gig of RAM, and at least 128 megabyte, 128 megabyte video card. Now, the reason for the video card is, it takes a lot of resources to operate this. Now, a lot of people didn't have, when it first came out, did not have machines that were that powerful. Because everybody's running Windows XP, the requirements were small. Now, however, in Windows 7, now this is interesting, Windows 7 actually operates and runs like Windows XP, but it looks like Windows Vista. Now, however, the requirements for this are unique. Basically, if you take Microsoft TechNet states that the requirements for Windows 7 is basically the requirements for Windows XP, which is at least a 1 gigahertz processor, at least 512 megabytes of RAM, because 512 megabytes of RAM is a lot less than 1 gig of RAM. The video, basically 128 megabytes, so we'll write that, 128. Okay, 128 megabytes of video. Now, with 128 megabytes of video RAM on a Windows 7 operating system, is probably, you could probably game on that machine. As opposed to Windows Vista, where 128 is minimum. Now, to make it run really well, you need at least a 2 gigahertz processor, you need at least 2 gigs of RAM, and you need at least a 512 megabyte or better video card in order to make Vista work its best. Now, one of the biggest problems with Windows Vista is its user access control, or UAC. Now, the UAC is an interesting program what Vista decided to do is to try to solve a lot of its issues by implementing a program that would change your registry. If there are any changes in that registry, it would flag you and say, okay, are you sure you really want to do this? Now, the problem with that, in a sense, was it was aggravating. Every time you install a program, this UAC would kick in and say, hey, are you sure you want to do this? Well, after you click, 2,000, 3,000 times, because, most people like to install new software, new games, items like that. So, Microsoft in Windows decided to, okay, we're going to try to change this with Windows 7. Now, Windows 7 is quite unique. Windows 7, there's 4 different settings that you can use to change all of this instead of flagging all of the time saying, hey, do you really want to do this? Now, if it's a minor change in the registry, they don't mind. It's not going to trigger anything. It's going to be a small little flag at the bottom of the screen that shows you, that it may have an issue. Now, with Windows, well, let's go this way. Do you have any questions right at this point? Anybody?
How do you adjust the UAC using Windows 7?
Well, you adjust the UAC by going to the control panel, which looks just like Vista. So you go through, you click on the Windows icon, then you click Programs, and in those programs go to the control panel. Control panel go to the user account. Now the user's account has a little icon there. You click on that and it'll say UAC. Now there are 4 changes. There's a minimum, where it doesn't show at all, a maximum, which is just like Windows Vista, and 2 in the middle. Now by default it's in the middle. It basically explains to you how it will flag only if major changes are done on the registry. Okay. Any other questions on that?
As a tech, which version of Windows would you recommend?
Well, right at this point, I would recommend Windows 7. Of course, there's less issues with it right at this point. Now, it's still under beta. The release candidate has just come out, which means it's ready to be out on the market. Windows 7 is easier to use, less resources. You don't need to buy a new computer. Not like Windows Vista, where everybody had to buy a new computer and they were forced to use it. But yeah, I would recommend, on a technical standpoint, Windows 7, I would wait to get that. In conclusion, however, I would just like to say just some of the features of Windows 7 are a lot better than Windows Vista. Windows Vista is a good operating system, but there's too many problems, too many tweaks that you have to make. In Windows 7, the way it runs right now, as a beta tester, I have found that it runs a lot better than Windows Vista did, or does, and Windows Vista basically will be phased out. So in conclusion, hopefully I have proven to you that Windows Vista is a failure and Windows 7 is the way to go. I would like to thank you and enjoy your day.